press to talk with you about the how network affects our lives, how do we use them, where we are able to map these networks, and what part or what critical infrastructure has the computer networks as their backbone. Then we will discuss different types of networks, how do we see them, how do we build them, and how and what part of the computer networks are on each of your homes, so you are able to see quite a familiar pictures, let's say so. Then we'll talk about how the network will evolve, what trends do we see right now in the networking, and thus you will see you how you may be involved in these network trends, and how do you able to develop yourself as a professional and with these networking trends. And finally, we will talk, and I'll show you the possible development, the possible network professional development process, what type of certificates are considered to be essential for you as a network professional, how much network specialists are in demand right now in the European Union, and what is the possible roadmap for a network professional to develop. So let's start from the main topic, from the main theme of why the network is a thing in the first place. And let's talk about how network affects our lives. So pretty much every human uses the essentials such as the food, the air, the shelter, the water, and during the last decades, the communication will become those essentials as well among the air, water, and food. And this is one of the most important part of today's life. Pretty much every human. We all have smartphones, tablets, and PCs that are connected with the internet, connected with each other, and we are communicating. We are sharing our, let's say, our emotions, our day-to-day life using these communication devices, using the communication itself with the help of the internet. And thus, these communication are being provided by the computer networks, which is in general, a computer network is just a connection among a group of devices, such as computers, smartphones, network devices, and other types of electronic devices that helps us to communicate with each other, helps us to share the data, the information, to work even, especially on the basis of the recent years. We have a situation where pretty much all of the works are possible to be done remotely, and thus the role of the networking increased, especially while the pandemic happened. Thus, the networks are evolving and being applied pretty much at every stage, at every work, and at every facility and every communication system. In total, the role of an internet, the role of the network, shows us the new possibilities in the communication process. We have now pretty much all of the data being placed on the internet. We are communicating using the internet, the social networks. We are receiving the news, receiving the data, receiving the emotions from the social networks and other communication methods. And the main idea is that internet made it possible for us to have a world without boundaries, without limitations. We're able to communicate with pretty much every human in every point of the world just immediately on the snap of a fingers, and this won't this wasn't possible even a couple of decades ago, but now it is the main and essential way to communicate with pretty much every human around the world. And as we have these global communication possibilities, we are building up a global communities that the people from all of the countries all over the world may join, may unite on the basis of their interests, and thus we are building the human networks regardless of the physical location. So to while we are using the internet, we are creating new ways to communicate, to build up social communities without the boundaries, without the language limitations, and without the physical limitations as well. So a computer network is the backbone of all of the types of critical infrastructure. So the critical infrastructure is the systems or the entities that helps us to exist as they are essentials for our day-to-day life, for our day-to-day existence. So if we take a look on the different types of the systems, such as a power supply, power grid, water supply, the transportation system, including the ground, maritime transportations, aviations as well, the telecommunication, the healthcare, the financial systems and banking, the power plants, including the nuclear ones, and of course a role of security services. All of these systems, all of these facilities are supplied, are made possible with the help of computer networks that helps them to work, to operate with the help of fast data exchanging, with the help of creation and informational systems that unifies the databases, as well as creates the possibility to have a single point of enter to such a systems. For example, the possibility for you to book every flight ticket for every flight in the world is made possible by unifying the databases of the aviation companies, and with the help of the connection, with the help of the networks, with the help of the internet. And as we are talking about the networks, we should take a note on what types of networks they are. And we have different options, different types of network depending on the different parameters, such as a size of the area covered, the number of users connected, the number of types of services available, and the area of responsibility. And based on these types, based on these terms, we have different networks, different sizes of them, starting from the smallest one to the biggest one, as well as we have different types of the networks within the network, such as social networks that has some special features, special services for us to work with, and we have and each of these types of a network, we have special people, special professionals who are in charge of building them and designing them, as well as maintaining and keeping them running. And every network professional has its own area of responsibility. and you as the possible future of your professional development, take a note that every type of these networks are needed needed to have the corresponding professional to keep it running and operate. So pretty much all of you have a small home networks at your homes, at your apartments, at your houses. These networks are the smallest possible networks in your field of view, let's say so, and they are connecting your devices with the internet, and thus you will be able to work um, with the internet connection to communicate with each other, and pretty much all of you have the corresponding network device, which is called a Wi-Fi router, that helps you to connect to the internet, and you are the administrator of these small home networks. So you're able to see, to have some basic information, basic knowledges on how do the network operates using these small home networks appliances, such as a Wi-Fi router or a modem. The next type of a network, which is a little bit bigger, is a small office and a home office networks, which has a pretty much the same structure, but we have significantly more devices connected, and what is more important, that the aim of those networks are differ from your small home networks, that they are connecting not only you for your devices for internet access, but also these small office home office networks are providing an access for company resources if you are working from home, if you are a remote worker, which is quite popular way to work, and this Soho Networks has its own features, its own requirements, as well as its own challenges and security, let's say, security demands. Okay, the next one is what comes to mind if we are talking about the network administration, the professional in networking, so-called medium to large networks. These types of networks are being built by the network designers, the network professionals, and they are maintaining these networks. And the main skills that you are going to have during your educational process are pointed or aimed to have the essential knowledges and essential skills to work with those medium to large networks, as they are the most commonly spread across the different organizations. And these networks are the backbone of those essential appliances that we have talked recently. And by maintaining these types of networks, or for maintaining those types of networks, there are quite a lot of demand of the network specialists around the globe, not only in Latvia, not only in the European Union, but also pretty much every country has its own organizations, a lot of organizations that have the medium to large networks being built or required to be built. And the network professionals there is quite an important role in the organization to keep to build up and keep it running while the organization is working. And finally, the largest network. There are the worldwide network, which is the internet, or some even called it the networks or the network of networks. So the internet unifies or unites all of the networks across all of the organization, across all of the countries, and this network helps us to and helps us to communicate with every person in every point of the world. And as we are increasing the possible ways to communicate, the possible ways to connect to the internet, starting from the wired connection and the wireless one up to the satellite connection to the internet. Thus, the internet is coming to pretty much every point, pretty much every device, and that's why it is being called the network of networks. To have the idea on how you are able to evolve, how you are able to become a professional, you need to know about the trends that there are in today's networking, and there are pretty much a limited way of trends. This is not all of them, but the main ones. So there are four main trends that we can observe at this point. And the first one is the bring your own device concept. The next one is work from home and online collaboration, which starts or which have the significant impact on the networking starting from the pandemic. The video calls, which increases the load on our networks, and the cloud computing, which is quite a popular way to compute, to have the resources for your company everywhere in the world. So the bring your own device concept lays down under the pretty much every organization's network. So the main idea under this concept is that you as the worker or any other person as the worker prefer to work with its own devices, its own laptops, smartphones, even PCs in some cases. And those devices are mostly portable ones, and there are some challenges based on this concept because earlier we have a fixed network with the limited number of devices that we as the network professional were administrating. But for now we have a situation where the every person, every employee coming to work with its own devices, one or even more of them, 2, 3, in some cases even more. And there is a security concerns about the situation, as well as we have to configure our network to have the possibility to connect these employees' devices. And this concept or this situation increasing the demands to our networks, and thus the network professionals should have additional skills to be able to operate with those devices that are not fully under the administrator control, as well as these devices need to have the access to the company resources. And in general, the bring your own device or BYOD enables the users to have their own devices, to use them on their working place. And as the real life example here, I'm coming to our lectures using my own laptop, as it is more familiar, more suitable for me to work with, and that's why it is quite a common way to quite a common trend that defines how the computer networks are going to evolve in the recent future. The next trend is the work from home and online collaboration, which is one of the most popular way to work remotely in today's world, in today's organizations. That helps both the employees and employers to improve the quality of work, improve um, the results for this type of work, because the employer has the possibility to shrink the size of the office they need to have. For employees, it is a very good opportunity to work on from home, from the um, let's say a familiar environment, as well as it is possible to work remotely from any point of the world. Some um, people consider even to change, to switch a country, to switch to some other places in the world and work remotely in this way. And this um, trend is heavily connected with the video calls that for required for remote workers, as they are needed to collaborate with each other, and these video calls are able to provide those type of collaboration. Um, Thus, we are able to have a face-to-face conversation, even if we are not in the same room, not in the same city, and even not in the same country. But as we are increasing the number of people who are working remotely and needed to have a video call connection, the heavy loads on our networks that these video calls are producing shapes the way on how do our networks will evolve in the nearest future, as we have the uh, increasing this the quantity of these video calls, as well as we need to have them as much higher quality as possible. So this trend defines and shapes on how will the networks will evolve, how the bandwidth of our network connection are evolving as well, and network professional should have these video call possibilities in mind while designing the networks for the organization or for the internet service providers. So those networks will work as intended with no lagging or no, let's say, problems with the video calls in the first place. And the final trend is a cloud computing, which defines on how do the companies are working with the resources they have. So recently we have a situation where the company's resources is stored directly on the company's site using the company's servers. But for recent trends from recent years, the global corporations has built a lot of data centers, and they are providing the cloud computing services that uh, helps us to use these resources, those services remotely on the free basis or on the subscription basis. And thus a lot of companies, a lot of organizations are switching from the current situation when they have computers or servers on their site to the cloud computing, and this increasing the uh, demands, increasing the requirements for our computer networks, as we have to work with those remote sites with those clouds, and thus we need to provide the connection to those clouds, to secure those connection, to limit the access to the communication lines, and thus this is the one of the most important points of evolving, of developing of the networks, and the network professionals should keep in mind the possible cloud communication lines, the possible cloud communication services. Pretty much a lot of the different aspects of the cloud computing are being made on the side of the companies who are providing those cloud computing services, and they are keeping in mind the storage problem, the security reason, the security measures, the communication, the quality of communication to those data centers, as well as the data centers infrastructure for themselves. But you, as the network administrator, the network professional, should also have the corresponding knowledges on how do these clouds are working, how do the data centers are working, so you'll be able to create the network within your organization that is able to communicate with the clouds, as well as to establish this communication in a secure and reliable way. In total, we have 4 different types of clouds. They are at the moment. The first one is the public clouds. You have all of you, I think, have the real life examples on the communication with the public clouds. The most easily remindable one is the searching engines that you are using, or an email services, as well as the video streaming services. All of these types of services are considered to be public clouds, and the main idea under these public clouds is that the services they are providing available to everyone. On the other side of the spectrum, there are private clouds that are, let's say, that not everyone has access to these private clouds. Usually, this type of clouds are being built by the organizations for their own use, but in this for this type of clouds, they are quite expensive because the organization needs to establish the whole infrastructure for data center, and not only to buy the equipment for these data centers, but also to pay some expenses during the maintaining, during the running of those private clouds. But they are providing some important, let's say, features that helps those organizations to be sure that the private clouds is the choice they need to have. The main idea under the private cloud is that the data, the organization's data, have been stored in secure place, and those data centers, those databases, are secured and stored in the private places, in the private space, and fully controllable by the organization specialists. But as they are quite inexpensive, we have a hybrid cloud concept which shares the benefits of both private and public cloud. And this is one of the most complex challenges for network professionals, because you need to combine services from a private cloud and a public cloud simultaneously to share those resources and to communicate between those two types of clouds. But as for a user, you should provide this type of a cloud as the single service, as the single architecture. So the user shouldn't be bothered with the switching between those two types of cloud. And finally, we have a community clouds, which let's say the public clouds with a special features being used only for some limited organizations such as healthcare or government services. So this cloud, the community clouds, are just a public clouds made for meeting a special demand for a special organization, for a special. Usually these are a government ones, but sometimes you can see a different situation. So to maintain, to build, to design those types of networks, those types of clouds and an infrastructure, you should have a special skills, you should have a special abilities as the network professional. And in total, we have following, let's say, paths or ways for you as the network professional to involve. So first is the network administration, which is the quite basic role for every network engineer. That is consists of the maintaining or building up the network for the organizations to keep it up, to provide the let's say users or other employees the possibility to connect to those internets as well, to those networks, as well as to connect to the internet, and to troubleshoot if there are some issues happening in the organization computer network. The next way is to go to the network automation. This is a quite more complex task that requires from you not only have the appropriate knowledge for the computer equipment, but also for automation skills such as the scripting language, as the Python, for example. Then the network automation may require from you to get familiar with the automation devices or in the industrial automation, industrial networks. Then this is one of the main paths to become a DevOps professional in IT. That requires from you not only to have the appropriate knowledges for network engineering, but also for development of the software. And so by combining those two fields, you're able to maintain the company's infrastructure in the hardware way and in the software way. So as for your network devices, but also for your cloud entities, for your servers, for your computers, as well as for your, let's say, the backbone software that you are running for your organization, such as Docker containers and the virtualization environments. There is a lot of fields, a lot of knowledge that they are, and that's why these type of professionals, the network automation specialists or DevOps specialists, are in high demand in today's world, and there's also pretty much highly paid roles in pretty much every organization. So the next field or the next way for you to develop yourself is network security and the cyber security field. This is again the separate field, the separate set of requirements, set of roles that you need to perform on your day-to-day basis. And these network and cybersecurity specialists are not only focusing on the networks itself, they're also working with the cloud security services. They are providing the, um, let's say, the protection for companies' data, for a company's networks. And as you all know, there are a lot of security breaches among the even the most and even the largest companies are they are, and to prevent those events to happen, uh, the employers around the world are hiring and seeking for a network security specialist that helps them to protect their data from leaking, and thus it may result in some undesirable consequences for those organizations. That's why the network security specialists are very in high demand. Then we have a cloud computing specialists who are again maintaining and upkeeping the cloud services and data centers, as well as designing new services for customers, for possible users of these type of services. And these let's say these specialists, these professionals, again are very in a very high demand, but this is not the starting point. This is quite the next level, let's say, after the network administration and automation steps, as well as the network architecture, which is the design of a network, which may sound quite easy, but in fact we have pretty much a lot of requirements for such a people. For example, we have the requirements for a certification for those type of network architecture skills, to have at least 10 years experience in this exact field, and that's why it is very important to have the appropriate skills, appropriate experience to become a network architecture. So this is the possible way for a network specialist to evolve. So on the first step, we have the network engineer, the entry level, then the junior network architect or junior network engineer, then a network engineer or network architect, then a senior network architect. After the network architect manager or director, and the final step of evolving, or the final step of this ladder, is the consulting or a specialization, or maybe in some cases the education. A lot of network architects who have passed this way have become tutors or trainers for others to share their experience among the people who are going to have the same knowledge, who are going to pass the same way. And for networking, there are a lot of different certifications, the professional certifications, which considered to be essential for a network professional, such as Cisco professional certificates, as well as the CompTIA professional certificates. So Cisco is the most or the biggest company in the world who are producing the network equipment and the network services for the customers. And they have their own educational program. Some of you will pass those education program here in TSI. We have the partnership with the Cisco, and we have the appropriate laboratory installed for educational purposes. As well as we are working with the Cisco Network Academy to provide our students the possibility to obtain the appropriate knowledges that will help you to pass those professional certifications exams. But the main idea under them that you need to have appropriate professional certificates to approve or um, to show your potential employer that you have passed the appropriate exams, you have the corresponding knowledge, you are able to work with the equipment, with the systems, with the networks, and that's why these types of certificates are very um, useful and essential for you if you are going to be a network specialist, network professional. So as for example, here we have the roadmap or a pathway. If you are using the Cisco certification track, so first we have to have a certificate that is called a CCNA, the Cisco Certified Network Associate, which is the basic level of professional certification or the proving of your capability to have the appropriate skills. On the next step, you are able to have different paths depending on what network specialization you are going to have, whether it be the service provider. So the next step for you will be the gaining of the CCNP certificate, which is Cisco Certified Network Professional, for the internet service providers or for a data center building that have its own features, its own requirements, as well as the Cisco Certified Network Professional for enterprise networking, which is the most popular way to improve your skills or to have the appropriate skills. Then the security specialization, which again, one of the most highly demanding types of professionals, as the security concern one of the most important for pretty much every organization. Then the collaboration specialist who have the possibility to build up the networks for a collaboration, who build up the conference room for communication between remote workers and the let's say the organization meeting rooms. And here we have the additional option is to have the a DevNet specialization, which is software development for network services. And Cisco has the appropriate certification path for this type of specialist. On the next step after the CCNP, you have the CCIE certification, which is the most, let's say, this type of a certificate crowns the top of the career development for a Cisco professional, and this will require from you not only to have the appropriate skills, the appropriate education, but also the certain amount of experience. So it will require from you to work with the Cisco equipment on the Cisco networks on a pretty much on certain years of experience, let's say so. But these three are the most highly demand types of the professionals. The CCNA is a basic one, so you are able to start your career just with the gaining of this CCNA certificate. The CCNP proves that you are that you have the appropriate experience, not only the appropriate knowledges, but the appropriate experience to work with the corresponding track, whether it be a data center or the service provider or an enterprise networking. And the CCIE is the top level achievement for you to have on this network engineering way. So as for jobs, recently, a couple of days ago, I've checked LinkedIn, and for the quantity of the vacancies there, and for example, for the CCNA certificate, we have 47,000 different vacancies that mention that the candidate should have the CCNA certificate to apply for this job. And for the CCNP, there are much more possible vacancies. I have found up to 61,000 different vacancies in the European Union. And that shows you that these types of certificate are very high demand, and the people who are going to have them will find the job no matter what. So there's a lot of a lot of companies who have the CCNA and CCNP, who need employees with the CCNA and CCNP certificates in demand. And here is another type of the certification. The organization called the CompTIA. They have quite a lot of different tracks, quite a lot of different possible certifications, depending on the way, on the track that you as the IT specialist going to choose, whether it be the information security, the network and cloud technologies, the hardware services and infrastructure, the IT management, the storage systems, the web and mobile development, the software development, and the training. So all of these tracks are requiring the appropriate certifications, the appropriate set of skills and knowledge you need to have to prove your let's say to prove your value for your potential employers. And these certifications help you um, to have this proof on your hands, just as is. So this is quite useful, um, let's say, a roadmap for you. So if you are going to evolve as the network, and not only network but the informational technology professional, here is the possible certificates, possible proofs that you are able to obtain, you are able to receive from this organization, which is considered to be one of the most respectful among the uh, informational technology industry. So this is pretty much that's it, what I would like to say. Do you have any questions or maybe um, a topic to discuss? I would, no? Well, then, I think.